The NHL is horrified. This is happening as the Colorado Avalanche give a massive update on their captain that changes everything for the team going into the playoffs. We're going to break all this down and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, if you're a part of the 92% that's not subscribed yet and you're enjoying this daily NHL content or Colorado Avalanche content, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be here all season long into the playoffs, giving you updates from around the league. But with that, Darius, we got to hop straight into a huge topic coming out of Colorado, where we do see from the Colorado PR, the Avalanche have loaned Captain Gabriel Landeskog to the Colorado Eagle on a conditioning stint. Now, with this, we do see from an Avs reporter that this is a 3-game conditioning stint for the captain. What's your thoughts on Landeskog being poised and almost set to come back to this team for the playoffs?
I think this is pretty crazy because, first of all, we know the whole story behind this, and there's a documentary coming out on his entire recovery from this injury, and it started back in 2020, which is hard to believe. He got cut with the skate in his quad, obviously, and he was out for some time because of that. When he did come back, because of the quad injury, it complicated things with his knee. He was having knee issues, so he had to take some time off. After they won the Stanley Cup, because he was basically running off of fumes with his knee when they were, on that Stanley Cup run. And then he hasn't played since then. And nobody's ever come back to any professional sport after getting the surgery that he's had. So this is pretty incredible that he's even going to play professional hockey this weekend, right? Which we'll get to in a second. But, this tells me that this is kind of to see where he's at, right? He's in the ECHL right now, and let's see how he progresses and how he feels. I don't think it's any clear road to the NHL yet, although it's looking that way. Like, I think it's going to end up happening. I think he's going to end up back in the NHL with the Avalanche, but I think they're really using this 3-game stint to see what he has in the tank and how he feels on the ice instead of just like throwing him back into the NHL playoffs after 2 years. But it's pretty incredible that this is going to happen. And not only that, we're going to get to it later in the video, but what this does for the Avs and lengthening their already crazy lineup and a Stanley Cup projected lineup is pretty insane, getting your captain back. And he's been around the rink. He's been around the guys for the last 2 years, but it's not the same when you're not in the battle with the guys right on the ice. So it's pretty crazy that he's returning. And I think with this stint, we'll have a better idea after this weekend, after the next couple games, how he's looking and if he's going to return as soon as this year for this year's playoffs.
Because, looking at the schedule for the Colorado Eagle, we do know they have a couple of handful of games coming up as early as Friday, this coming Friday, the 11th. So he can return as early as this weekend on Friday or Saturday. I don't expect him to play a back-to-back. So maybe we see him jump into maybe the Saturday game to get back on the ice in the AHL to work towards making the Avs lineup. Now, listen, with the Avs, we know they have a deep team. They have a bit of injuries that we will touch on, but this is an Avalanche team that did a lot of moves this year. Their goaltendings are completely new on the team. We see a lot of the forwards picked up throughout the year. We've seen Rantanen traded. This team has changed a lot. Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, Dury, these guys are all new centers. Looking at this lineup, where do you think Gabriel Landeskog could slide into this lineup when he returns? I know it's going to be a long road for him to be a top line player again, but I do expect him to come in and make an immediate impact.
I think he might slot in on the third line. It's hard to say at this point. I don't think he's going to be able to come in and play top line minutes. And not that he can't play and the skill's not there. I don't think you ever lose those things, especially if you start to work your way back, which he has. But I don't know if he can keep up with those guys like Nathan MacKinnon, for example. And I don't know if he can play that many minutes. So I wonder if he comes in on the third line and he adds a depth option for this team. And this team is already, what you're looking at right now is their current lineup. They're missing a lot of guys due to injury right now. Jonathan Drouin's coming back. Martin Necas is not even in this current lineup, right? So if you add Gabriel Landeskog to this lineup, name any other team that has a better shot at winning the Stanley Cup than this team. There's maybe a handful, maybe 3 other teams that you could see winning a Stanley Cup, including the Colorado Avalanche. So this is a scary team with Landeskog on it. But again, I think it's maybe a third line role, and maybe he moves his way up, right? But we're nearing the playoffs here. We're only a handful of games away from the actual playoffs. He's going on this conditioning stint. I don't see him being able to play 20, 25 minutes a night, something like that, at the NHL level in the playoffs after coming back from a 2-year absence, right? I think that would be a little insane, but it can happen, and especially as the playoffs progress. But I think it's maybe a third line role for him. But again, it lengthens the lineup, and that's a good point that you made too about all the centers. All the centers on this team are different from the start of the year, except for Nathan MacKinnon, which is pretty impressive. Both goaltenders did not start the year with the Avs. So what they've been able to do in retooling this team on the fly, right? Not in the off season, like on the fly this season, has been pretty incredible to watch. And we'll see what Gabriel Landeskog is able to do for this team as well.
And I mean, listen, looking at their current injuries, other than Tucker Pullman, who they acquired from Vancouver, that's not going to play hockey this year, all these guys immediately hop into either the top 4 on defense or a top 6 role. Landeskog, I do agree, would fit perfectly on that third line. Maybe you don't put down Jimmy Vesey down a line, but I do think he fits great with Coyle and Colton. These guys will be so hard to play against with Landeskog coming back. I know it's going to take a while for him to get up to game speed, but looking at the Avs team as a whole, they're looking like a legitimate contender again. We know the biggest problem was finding center depth that could score. We've seen it not really go according to plan. After Nazem Kadri left, we see Newhook kind of try to work it out, trade it to Montreal. We see Middlestat try to work it out. Didn't really work and traded to Boston. So I do think this team is a lot deeper than we were expecting at the start of the year. I mean, looking at the score, and Nathan MacKinnon has been a madman going out there. Nietzsche has fit perfectly on the team. Rantanen being moved was surprising to people, but almost made the team better. Looking at the team itself, Darius, do you think this is a team that's going to really make the push? And listen, every fan base thinks a team can make a push, but with what they did at deadline, do you think this almost pushes them as maybe a top favorite in the National Hockey League?
Absolutely. This team is very scary. And for one reason, for me in particular, because when you look at the team on paper, you're like, okay, this team can win a Stanley Cup. They're very deep, especially if they're all healthy and everyone's back for the playoffs, right? You could look at them on paper and be like, yes, this team will win a Stanley Cup. But the fact that they made so many moves, and not just at the deadline, because they did at the deadline, but throughout the entire season, and they're still continuing to play as well as they are, and everyone's buying into the system, that's what's scariest to me. The fact that you have so many moving parts, you have so many new players, but they all come in, they fit the system. First of all, they fit the system, and they're buying in to what the team is selling and what, Jared Bednar is selling. And of course, management and everyone in the philosophy of this team, they've all bought in. They're still continuing to play well. There hasn't been any real speed bumps, right? That's the scariest thing to me, that they're just rolling and continuing to roll into the playoffs. And that's been the difference for me, at least with this team. So I think that's the reason they can win. And on top of it, they have Stanley Cup experience in this lineup. And you just added a guy in Ryan Lindgren too, who's an absolute warrior and has been there and done that for the New York Rangers too. He's gone to 2 conference finals with that team. So, one round away from the Stanley Cup final, he has experience going deep in the playoffs and putting his body on the line. So I like a lot of the moves that they made. They shored up their center depth for sure. Charlie Coyle with a great shootout winner yesterday. I mean, he's continuing to do his thing and was a good pickup from the Boston Bruins. So that's the scariest thing for me with this team, the fact that they have so many new players from the start of the year and they're still playing as well as they are, and everyone has bought into the system. And I think that, there's always egos at play and stuff like that, but it sounds like, or it looks like too on the ice, that everyone's bought in. They want to win a Stanley Cup. They know what the ultimate goal is, and they're just going to continue to roll. And this might be the scariest, 2 or 3 seed in the entire league, or seed, I should say, because heading into the playoffs, whoever has to play the Colorado Avalanche, that's not an easy first round matchup by any means.
And I mean, adding captain material with Landeskog back into this lineup, it's going to change everything. But Avs fans, what's your thoughts on Landeskog coming back? What line do you think he makes it on when he joins the team? Do you think it's going to be the third line? Or do you think there's a chance that he gets reunited with Nathan MacKinnon? I know it's a long shot, but dreams can be made. What's your guys' thoughts on all this? Go down and leave a comment on it below. We love reading through it. While down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.